Welcome to 86 Special, hosted by me, Hernan Stutzer. I have worked in the restaurant business for the last 30 years. I have gone from being a dishwasher in the dish pit until my fingers pruned. I have gone from being a busser, a waiter, and now I have become a restaurant owner. I have created this podcast to talk to people in the industry because I want to know their stories, their struggles, their wins, and everything in between. These are people that have been in the mud day in and day out, trying to do their best for their clients. These are stories that you won't find on the menu.
Asked my chef instructor which was the best culinary institute in the world to go to, and without even batting an eyelid, he said the Culinary Institute of America. Everybody in my generation or the community was studying to be a doctor or an engineer. And neither of those two professions even remotely spoke to me. I think who I am is just, a simple girl from India who has, who loves food and who loves the connectivity that food gets, who loves exploring the world.
Blue sky, sunshine, coffee and you. How does it feel like I already knew? You in a past life, it's 1:45. How did it happen? Clock can't be true.
86 Special. Maneet, welcome to 86 Special. What a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited about this conversation.
I know. So we are in beautiful Nashville, second time, and we are in Mockingbird, one of your outlets, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We had dinner here last night. It was amazing. I think we probably order everything off the menu.
Fantastic,
Might have left a few things.
as you should have. And then whatever is left today for lunch at Chauhan, we are going to catch up on that.
Can't wait. I cannot wait. So basically, while going through putting your name on the internet, these are some of the things that we found about you. Maneet earned a bachelor's degree in hotel management from Manipal Academy of Higher Education in India. She then attended the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. In 2000, she was hired as a management for a startup restaurant in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where she headed a team and expanded the restaurant's capacity from 70 seats to 140 seats. In 2003, at the age of 27, she became the opening exec chef of Vermilion in Chicago. And this two-time Tournament of Champions winner is also best known as one of the panel of judges on the award-winning Food Network program, Chopped. Maneet Chauhan's energy and creativity, combined with polished culinary skills and the courage to follow her passion, have proven to be the right ingredients for success. But
Keep
now
going.
You tell me.
Keep going. I'm like,
You
you're
tell
doing
me
wonders
now.
for my ego. I'll just sit back, sip on this this lovely champagne that you've gotten and just keep on continuing.
What
Just
else can you tell me about Maneet Chauhan?
You know what? I think this is all... what you've read, I don't think is Maneet Chauhan. These are just incidents in my life who have made me who I am. I think who I am is just... a simple girl from India who has, who loves food and who loves the connectivity that food gets, who loves exploring the world. And I think what I do in life, I put my 200% in it. And I think that kind of really pays back. I have ambition, but it's never something which has overshadowed how I live life, if that makes any sense.
It makes a ton of sense. Just tell me a little bit, how did it all start?
So I grew up in this really small town in India, right? My dad, he was an engineer, my mom, the principal of a school. The incredible part about India is that each and every state in India, each and every region in India has a very distinct cuisine of its own. Mm-hmm. So Northern Indian food is different from Southern Indian, Eastern Indian, Western Indian. And in India, when you live in, communities. And because of the virtue of my parents' profession, we lived in a community where there were people from all over India. So even though we lived in Eastern India, our neighbors were from Southern, I mean, we were from northern India. We had people who were from western, eastern. So when I was really young, I used to finish dinner at home, go over to my neighbors' houses, tell them that my parents hadn't fed me, so can I eat with you guys? And
That's me.
That's you, right?
Yeah.
See, that's why we get along,
Totally.
right? But it was incredible because it opened my eyes to cuisines that I hadn't, right, like which I wasn't tasting at home, right? So, Southern Indian food with the techniques, the ingredients, but I didn't spend as much time on the dining table as much as in the kitchen with the aunties, right? And I would see, I'm like, oh, why are you heating? Like I was that obnoxious why kid.
Yes.
But the why was all about food, right? Like why are you heating the oil before you're eating, adding these spices? Or why are you cutting this onion this way to make this and the onion in a completely different way to make that, right? So to me, I think that's where it really, really started.
And you come from a Punjabi family, right?
I come from a Punjabi family, and and we were exposed to, like, my parents were also into food for, like suddenly on a Sunday, Dad would be like, okay, we are going to drive, around 20 miles to go and have food at such and such a place, right? Or I still remember one of my favorite memories growing up is Sunday mornings, Dad would take out his scooter, his two-wheeler,
Yes.
and I would sit behind him and we would go to the farmer's market because those were the only markets available at that time. And everything was seasonal, right? Like carrots, red carrots you would get for 2 weeks in a year, get it, enjoy it, and wait for next year for it. And somehow I think that there was so much of you relished those vegetables so much more when, you knew that you only got it for once, in a
Yeah.
year. And that's how we ate.
Was your mom a
it
great
seasonal.
cook?
She, you know what? She was a good cook, but I always laughed. She was a teacher of a school, so she would leave really early in the morning. And when she would come back, so not only did she have to be a mom, she also had to be, the principal of a school. Plus, you've got to be, a woman. And so she would come back and she would be really tired, and it was her responsibility to make dinner. And she would start making something, and then she would sit, and then she would kind of, nod off, which is something that I've started doing. And, suddenly she would get up and, the bottom of the vegetable was well done. And my dad would always, he's like, oh, so we're having well done vegetable again today. And my mom is like, just you wait, when Maneet leaves, like, what are you going to? Because I had taken over cooking really early. So she's like, yeah, I'll give you well done vegetables every day. So it was fun. But yeah, I think my dad was more into like desserts and stuff. Like he would make ice cream. And the ice cream that he would make would be unlike any of the ice cream over here, because in India we would make eggless ice cream. So on a Saturday night, he would have a book in his hand and he would be standing over the stove with milk and just constantly mixing it till the milk reduces and it becomes creamy.
Like an engineer.
Like an engineer, exactly, that he was. And then he would put it in these ice cube trays. Then he would go ahead and put it in, put it in the freezer. And next morning, wake us up really early in the morning so that my sister, mom, and I could hold the container on which they would be like, double toil and trouble. And then it would be the creamiest ice cream ever. We loved the ice cream, but we hated the process. But that's what it was all about.
So, dad an engineer, mom worked at a school. How did you start developing into, showing some interesting cooking?
I think because everybody in my generation or the community was studying to be a doctor or an engineer. And neither of those two professions even remotely spoke to me. And I'm like, I want to be a chef. And everybody's like, study a little bit harder, you'll become an engineer. I'm like, I don't want to be an engineer. My parents were very, very supportive. They're like, back off. They're like, let her do whatever she wants. The only thing that they told me was, be the best at what you're doing. Don't compromise, because you don't have to make, you don't have to follow the path that everybody else is. So, yeah.
Do you have any siblings?
I do have an older sister, yes.
Is she in the
She's
food
an
world?
engineer.
Also an engineer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's like, and we actually, she was here over the weekend, and we were having this discussion where I told her, I said, you have the curse of the older child, because there are certain expectations. And the funny part is, as we were discussing, none of these expectations were set by our parents. They're like, do what you want. I think these were expectations that we set on ourselves. Yeah. And I think that's what kind of made it even more interesting.
So you did get your bachelor's degree in hotel management, right? In Manipal.
Yes.
So, but this is still not cooking, right? Which is your passion.
So in India at that time, if we really wanted to get into culinary, there weren't culinary schools as such, right? Okay. Like basically they were hotel management, and that's how you learned. I'm telling these guys to keep it quiet downstairs. No so that's basically what it was. It was a culinary, like to learn culinary, you had to do everything. And I hated it at that time. I'm like, why am I learning service? Why am I learning housekeeping? Why am I learning accounts? Why am I learning law? Like what is going on? And I hated it. Now in hindsight, being a restaurant owner, I'm like, oh, thank you. I needed that. I think that was really important because it gave me a very rounded education and an approach to how I did everything. So,
I can't agree more. Myself, I went to Le Cordon Bleu, and when I had those classes, and I'm like, I just want to be cooking, right? But now, being a restaurant owner, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know anything, right?
I used to hate math. I used to get nightmares about math. I'm like, I'm done, I'm done with school. I'll never touch math again. And hello, you've got to do the math in hotel management. And then when I came to the CIA, culinary math again. And now I am grateful about it because that foundation that was set was very, very strong.
So graduated from school in India. How did you get here? Like all the way to the US?
I asked my chef instructor, which was the best culinary institute in the world to go to, and without even batting an eyelid, he said the Culinary Institute of America. Now, my sister had already come here to do her master's, so she was in Indiana University in Bloomington. So, and we have a lot of family over here, so it kind of was a little bit easier. But that was it. I also call it, the audacity of youth, right? You are like, this is what I'm going to do, and you do it. And you don't think of the consequences because you always think of the most positive aspect of how things would work out. And that was it. I applied. It wasn't easy. Getting the admission wasn't difficult because once I figured out what I wanted to do, my grades and essays and all, that was not a problem. The problem was the finance of it, right? So, we asked our uncles and aunts over here if they could give us they gave us a personal guarantee, and I very clearly understood that, I had to take care of it. Yeah. My sister took a loan for the first semester to pay for my first semester. And after that, I took loans and, scholarships. And, getting international students getting scholarship is almost impossible.
Very hard.
Right? Yeah. And I had the highest GPA. I was involved in everything. And the loans which were thrown our way were so here. Take $1,000. I'm like, you're charging us $70,000. What am I going to do with that? But I think because I was so focused, I literally there were a lot of expenses that I cut off, living expense. I was the RA, right? And it was crazy because I used to my RA duty was till 12 in the night. And then I was a baking and a pastry student. That means that I had to be in class at 3 a.m. because you've got to you've got to make sure that you're ready for breakfast service. Yeah. So it was interesting, and you did it. And I think that is, in Hindi there is a word which is called jugaad. Okay, jugaad translated means that you'll come up with a solution to any problem that you have, and it could be the most creative way. And that's...
So, when you were in India, were you exposed to cuisines of other places in the world?
Yes, but you've got to keep in mind that Indians love taking all different cuisines and putting their own masala on it, right? Like the best Chinese I've ever had is called Indo-Chinese. it's Chinese food, which has, Indian flair to it, which I think is, but I think each and every country does that, right? Like a couple of years back, I was in Peru, and Peru has shifa. Shifa is Peruvian Chinese, right?
Yep.
So even the Italian food that we had in India was, marinara sauce, but it's got some masala in it.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, that was a great way. Like, my eyes opened in the sense that it made me realize that I could take cuisines that I loved and put my own signature on it.
Tell me about masala.
Yeah.
I am not very familiar with
Masala
masala.
means spice. It means spice or flavor, right? So masala, like, when there's chicken tikka masala, which, like, most of the people know, masala means just a blend of spice.
Okay.
So it is like, you just put and masala can be anything. It can be any spice, it can be any flavoring, but it means like you're zhuzhing it up, right? Like you're spicing it up.
Beautiful.
And that's what a masala is.
So does every family in India have their own version of masala?
Absolutely. So you could be following the same recipe, but two households will not come up with the same flavor profile based on the spices that they have.
Was there a certain family member or friend that made a killer masala and you're like,
yes,
I need to go here to have dinner?
Absolutely. There is, one of our really close family friends, right, like Mishras. They were like, uncle was from Odisha and auntie was from Maharashtra, and she used to use this distinctive garam masala mix from Maharashtra, and that was like, I'm like, I am standing in front of you, I'm seeing how you make it. When I go home, I can't make the same thing. And, later on I realized it was the spice blend that she used.
Do they guard their recipes like my wife with her cake recipe?
No, I really don't know, because I never asked, because I was too young. I think it was later on when I left, and I never asked. But I'm sure that if now I send an email, I'm like, Auntie, can you send me the recipe? I'm like, yeah, they definitely will.
I'm going to have to try that very soon. So you graduated from CIA. What next?
Reality of life hits you, because when I came from India, I was an international student, right? So, and I had seen a path which was like my sister, like she was an engineer, right? You graduate, you do your masters, you graduate, you get a campus job, you get an H1, right? And it's a natural progression, like, then you apply for your green card, you get your green card, then you apply for your citizenship. That's the path that I saw. But that was in a path which was somebody it was a technical field. It was an engineer, right? Engineers were needed at that time. Chefs at that time over here were not required. So I am like top of the world, in my mind, I'm like, I've graduated from the best culinary institute in the world, right? I've come from the best culinary institute, hotel management institute in India. Like, the world is my oyster, right? Highest GPA, like all the 4 awards in my class, I got all of that. Like, yeah, I was that obnoxious Indian kid, right? What next? I applied for all of these jobs on campus. I got all of these jobs on campus, but as soon as I started talking about them sponsoring my paperwork, they were like, oh, peace out, we don't do it.
Oh my.
Okay. And I'm like, there wasn't a plan B for me, because I wasn't planning to go back to India. I had worked in the kitchens in India. I was the only girl in a kitchen of, 60 to 70 men. And I started realizing that if I go back, like, all my energy which I could put into creating something would go into fighting to say that I belong, right? So that was really interesting, because around that time, my uncle and aunt, they were opening an Indian restaurant in Cherry Hill.
Okay.
And they were like, listen, while you're looking for a job, we can, we're looking for somebody who will manage this place, and, and I was like 24, 25. And if you're interested, that's something that, we'll sponsor your paperwork, and you can continue looking for what you're doing. And I think that was such a critical point in my life, because till that time, all I wanted to do was be a pastry chef. That's what I had gone for school for. That's what all my training was for. I wanted to be a pastry chef. I wanted to be a cake decorator. That's what I wanted to do. All I wanted to do
Very
was
technical.
very technical, and that's my, I wanted to open a bakery. Like that's what was in my mind. And I'm like, okay, this is something I've done, because in hotel management you have to do everything. I'm like, that's great. It was amazing because I got to present, and it was an Indian restaurant. And I started seeing what potential Indian food had in America. Because, you go to England, we've got such a long history with India,
Absolutely.
right? India and England has such a strong history. So people are more accepting of Indian flavors over there than over here. I mean, in America, we are still like ethnic cuisine. We're fairly young over here. And for the longest time, a lot of people were doing Indian food as a means to an end. It wasn't like they came over here, that was the skill that they had, which was to cook Indian food. And they're like, that's how we are going to earn money for our family. So there wasn't passion involved in it.
Yeah.
Right? People didn't train to be a chef. This is what they cooked. And so, which was the same what happened with Chinese food, right? So the cheapest ingredients, the quickest way to cook, so extremely oily. And to me, I'm like, but that's not what Indian food is. That's not how I grew up.
Correct.
So I think that's where that shift happened, where I'm like, okay, this is what I can do. I am the steward of a cuisine, and I need to let the world know how beautiful it can be. And I have the talent, and if I don't, then shame on me, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it really, the switch happened of being really proud of, where I've come from.
And your aunt and uncle were probably very open to everything that you brought to the table, correct?
Absolutely. I think they were very supportive, and they were like, and that's how the expansion happened. Like, it was supposed to be just an investment for them, because they were in the hotel business, and it was supposed to be just an investment for them, and then it became something that all of us really got involved in, and
Amazing.
That was it.
And then you go to Chicago, right?
And then I go to Chicago, and I'm like, okay. I literally walked into, there was a restaurant. It was Indian Chinese, I think, and I walked into the restaurant. I'm like, hey, do you want somebody to just come and stage? And I still remember I worked in that restaurant for around 3 months, and my commute every day was 2 hours one way, because I was living with my sister, and of course you have no money. So from all the way from Schaumburg, I used to go take a train, and then take the blue line. Like it was, and then walk for 20 minutes to get to the restaurant. And I did it for 3 months, and it was really interesting because the chef came over and he told me, he's like, hey, do you know anybody who is looking for a job? There is this lady who's opening a restaurant. They're looking for a chef. And I'm like, hello. And he's like, if you think you can do it, you should apply. And just that, it just lit such a fire. And it was interesting because, you start off, you work hard and you figure it out. And again, stepping stones to where we've ended up right over here.
Let me ask, I have to, it begs the question. So my wife and I, we watch you compete in all these shows, right? And we're like, was she always this competitive? And what you just said kind of like show me, when they tell you, well, if you think you're ready, apply. Was that fire always in you?
Yeah, I think the fire has always been in me. And I don't know if it's because of where I have, grown up, where you had to fight because you were, a girl child, and you had to make your presence felt, or if it was because it's just who I am. And it's interesting because I think that competitive edge kind of, it changes with age, right? Like, I have reached that stage where I'm satiated. I'm not competing with anyone with, the number of restaurants I have, or, what I am doing, or the number of shows I have. I am not. But throw me in a competition setting, and to me the the competitiveness has never been about, like, if I'm competing against X, Y, and Z, I really, in the most respectful way possible, I don't care a bleeping bleep of who I'm competing against. Because I've realized in the end of the day, the only person I'm competing with is myself. So if I'm having a good day, it'll be good. If I'm having a bad day, it'll be bad.
Would you say that you're your own worst boss?
I am my own worst boss. Yeah, absolutely. But I think I'm also my own best cheerleader.
Nice.
Because you have to realize that's what
yin and
it's
the yang.
all about. It absolutely, and you need to be. You realize that that you have to be surrounded with people who believe in you more than you believe in yourself, right? And I think that's what really, to me, it was my parents, and then my sister, and then now Vivek, and then the kids. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Like, I take my losses a lot better than my kids take my losses, right? Because I remember there was one TOC all of us were seeing, and I lost, and my daughter is like crying her eyes out, and I'm like, I said, but sweetheart, that's what life is all about. You can't win all the time, and you enjoy the wins. You relish it so much more if you've lost, because you know the feeling, like how much that pains. So yeah, I think that's the fun part about it.
Well, I can tell you, my wife and I were cheering for you with all these
you.
competitions, but
You guys are the best.
it begs the question. You're very competitive. You can see it, but food is your passion, right? I mean, it's so noticeable that you speak through your food, right? Is there a specific dish that you say, you know what, this is me in a dish?
Not really. I think because this is the one thing which I do with the kids all the time. Like, whenever we are traveling, right, I take them to have different cuisines that they've never tried. And when they're like, this is so good. And to me, I use that. I'm like, if the food is good, can you imagine how amazing the people are behind who are making this food, right? I always look at food as a unifying aspect that brings the world together, right? I mean, we met because of food, right? And I think that is incredible. I have this really funny story. A couple of years back, we went to Peru, and we went to this small town called Urumbamba. There is a train which starts from there to Machu Picchu, and we were over there, and we had gone with a couple of friends, and we land. We've been traveling all night, and everybody is like, oh, we're going to take a nap and all of that, and I'm like, oh, I'm in Peru, I can't take a nap, I've got to explore this country. And this was a small village, like it wasn't even right, like it wasn't a city or like Cusco or something of that sort. So I just walked into the local mercado, okay, and I'm walking around, and not many people know English over there, and let's say my Spanish is not fit for polite company. So I'm walking around, and Vivek finds me an hour later, and I'm sitting with this old Peruvian lady, and I'm making and selling these potato pancakes, right? And it was amazing because I can't speak Spanish, she couldn't speak English, we connected. And it was the connection over food. And to me, I think that is such a powerful moment when I think I had that aha epiphany moment in my life as to why food plays such an important part in my life, right? And that's what it is. Like, even last year, my sister, she loves good food, right? But she will like exploring good food is something that she's just started doing. And we went to India, and I told her, I said, let's go. She's like, where? I'm like, just come along with me. And I took her to Old Delhi, and she had never gone to Old Delhi. And like, just that sensory overload of the sounds and the smells and the colors. And we were talking day before yesterday. She's like, that was one of the favorite things that I did, because we just would walk up and we were like, okay, we'll buy one of that. And it was just incredible. And I think that is what food is. It just...
And street food in India is second to none.
Incredible. Yeah. It's incredible, yeah.
So you will take street food over fine dining any day?
Any day.
Yeah.
Any day. To me, even when people ask me that who are the chefs that you respect the most, I would probably say it's the street food vendors. They are so underestimated and they're not even, like, you don't even give them the title of a chef. But think about it, right? And now I think I look at it more because I've been doing so much of competition where there is these restrictions which are artificially created. But think about street food vendors, right? Most of them have no refrigeration. They have very limited finances, so they only get that much of stuff that they'll sell in a day, right? So everything is freshly made. It's not something made and that they can put it in the freezer, right? They're making it fresh, and the amount of flavor that they like get, and it's a small kiosk, right? This is it, right? They are like, a lot of them have those kerosene pumps. That's what they're cooking on, and to me, I think that is incredible, right? If you can, I think a mark of a good chef is to take really simple ingredients and to just breathe life into it,
I
right?
agree.
And breathing life into it means that the person who takes a bite in front has that moment where you're like, oh, wow, right? Done. So I think, so to me, and there was a time when I was a young chef, I called myself, I was a tweezer chef, which like I wanted to use a tweezer because I thought it was really cool. And now like we make fun of the tweezer chefs, which we shouldn't, which is not nice. But that's what it is. I think there is a time that you start settling into yourself as who you identify yourself as a chef. And to me, that's it. I just want bright colors. I want bold flavors. I want the moment that somebody takes a bite that they're like, this moment I'm going to remember. And I think that's what it's all about.
So all this traveling, we see that you're one day in New York, another day in California. How do you balance family life with all this?
First thing, I think the world balance is a myth. I don't think that I balance it at all. I don't think that I balance it well. But I think what works for me is that the moment that I find myself in gets to 100% of me. So if I'm with the kids, it's them, right? And to them, this is their normal, because since the time they were born, they have seen mom do this, right? And I think that that's important because, and maybe once they get older and they go to therapy, they will be like, my mom was never there, which I've heard more often than not. They're like, oh, but you're never there. And but I know that who I am is because I grew up, and my mom was one of the very few women in our community who was working. So my sister and I grew up with the fact that that's normal, right? And my dad was the person who pushed my mom to work, right? Like she would have been happy, like, being at home, but he's like, no, you need to have your own identity, right? It was her birthday over the weekend, and there were thousands and thousands of messages which were coming from her, her colleagues, her, students, and all of them were like, you set such an example. So to me, having grown up, and both my grandmoms, they were such dynamic ladies. So I grew up with women who were strong, who led by example. And that's what I want my kids to see. In fact, it was really funny. My son one day comes up to me and he tells me, he's like, can I ask you a question, Mom? And I'm like, yeah, sweetie, what is it? And he's like, can boys do anything that girls can? And it was a goosebumps moment for me, because I grew up with us being told that girls can do anything that boys can. So for him to have that perception, which was, I'm like, this is powerful. This is a powerful moment.
I get goosebumps myself,
right? Because not for a moment has my daughter ever thought that there is something that she can't do, or my son has ever considered that, him being a boy is superior. And that is a moment that I think that as parents, both Vivek and I have done a good job. That where you're like, you know what, you're citizens of the world. They'll go out, they'll make mistakes, they'll have heartbreaks, they'll go through all of that, right? And we as parents, like at times I think that I'm constantly nagging my daughter, right? And I'm like, or when I'm dropping my son off, I turn to him, I'm like, he's like, problems, only solutions. I'm like, yeah, because one day it will resonate. And it might be frustrating for me that it's not today or tomorrow, but one day it will. But when I'm here, like this morning, get them up, their lunch, their breakfast, dropping them to school, that's my day. So when I'm here, I am 200% for them. But when I'm not, I still am up the time they are up, making sure their nanny is over here, making sure that everything for their lunch is ready. So I am more present not being here than a lot of people are. So I try. And do I live with the guilt? Absolutely, constantly, no questions about it. There is this soul crushing guilt that I live with, but I'm just hoping that that this is who I am, and I hope that one day when they're older that they appreciate it.
Absolutely. Do you guys cook at home?
Yes, we do.
What do you cook? What do they like to cook?
Simple home cooked. Like we are because when we grew up, our meals are in India is one seasonal vegetable, one dal or a lentil soup, some roti or flatbreads, and something on the side, and that's what we do every day. So like yesterday was, the pink lentil dal, and then I made a fenugreek and carrots and pea sabzi. So when I'm home, there is a fresh meal every day, and then there are fresh flatbreads that I make, for the kids. So yeah, we're not a very meat heavy family, because that's not like when we were growing up, meat was a luxury in India. So we ate it probably once or twice a month, right? Because it was that expensive. So it was a luxury. So our meals were this, and we try to keep our meals very healthy and very very well balanced, but still very flavorful.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you worked at these restaurants. How did we get to the Food Network? How was that transition?
I think it was very organic. It was funny. I never ever thought that was never the path that I was like, oh, I've got to be on TV. It never was, right? And still now, I think that it is a byproduct of what I do. I don't consider myself as a TV chef, right? Opportunities come, I take it. So literally, you know how it is. You're an executive chef of a place, and a part of your job becomes, going on the morning shows, and you're doing, we have Diwali coming, and this is what we are serving, and you're cooking those, in those, the 2-minute or the 3-minute slot that you have, you've got to quickly cook something, and you're like, ta-da!
Correct.
Now come to our restaurant. So it's more of the marketing aspect of it. And when I went to New York, one of the marketing, initiatives was Iron Chef. So I think this was 2006, 2007. I was invited to compete on Iron Chef against Chef Morimoto. Right, of course.
Wow.
Let's do this.
Wow.
First time on Food Network. Let's get against Morimoto. And that's how it started. I think they saw something that they liked. Then they invited me to be, a chef on the next Iron Chef. That was the season that Mark Forgione won.
Yes.
The next season, and then they invited me to be, and Chopped had just started. I think it was the second or the third season. They invited me to be a guest judge. They liked something, and the next season they invited me to be a permanent judge. And that's what it's been. It's been organic. It's been organic. I've enjoyed doing what I'm doing, so it kind of translates, and yeah. It's like, that's why it's fun, right? Like when kids come and they're like, I'm like, why do you want to be a chef? They're like, we want to be on TV. I'm like,
Ooh.
No.
No. So you've competed and you've judged. What do you like best?
So when I'm competing, I want to judge. When I'm judging, I want to compete. That's the truth of it. The grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah. No, but we very much enjoy you competing, actually.
Thank you.
So we met back in, 2020? I think it was...
Yeah, it was just before the world stopped.
1 week prior
Yes.
to the world stopping, right?
I still remember I was taking the flight over, and I'm like, and people had started talking about it, and I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, we had an event at Charleston Food and Wine.
Yes. Yep.
So, world stops. How did you, and all your amazing restaurants, how did you guys deal with it?
Not very easily. You know it. I mean, you went through the exact same thing, right? You've got to kind of... I think what was really crazy was the unknown about it, right? We usually, I think all of us, we are planners, right? I still remember entering 2020 with, this is going to be the best year ever. And that's the time that we had 4 restaurants, right? We had like Mockingbird, Chauhan, and then in between we had a Chinese restaurant called Tanso. And then we had another fast casual Indian place called Chattable, right? And we didn't know. Like every morning, Vivek and I, we would be driving over, to work because you had to. Like it was so interesting. A lot of people were like, oh, we were going stir crazy because we were at home. We were never at home because we had to, like, even when the kids started getting, time off, or like they were not going to school, we were getting them with us because that's it. Like, we're like, okay, these are the roll-ups, pick it up, right? Or that's literally how it was. Like Karma was 6 at that time and Shagun was 9 and you do what you've got to do.
Yeah.
And I think that is what it is. Like you do what you've got to do. And that meant that in the morning, if like, the government is saying this and in the evening it completely changes, and be it being on Instagram and telling people how to wash hands or how to make a mask, and like now I look about it, I'm like, what the beep were we doing? But
Yeah.
I think it was all of us just trying to react to the unknown of the situation, which I think was overwhelming. And then we had our entire teams. I mean, at that time we had close to 200 people who were working for us, right? And we had to make sure that like the information which was being passed was correct, or how they were taken care of, and that's basically it. And I mean, of course, like Chattable was, we had to close Chattable because it never did survive COVID. It was a neighborhood place, and everybody moved out from there. And you've got to cut your losses where you've got to. Tanso was interesting. We tried to carry it for the longest time possible, but after some time you've got to, like it's so funny. People, when locals come and say, they're like, "Oh, Tanso was one of our favorites." We're like, oh, "Okay, where were you?" When we needed you. So you have to kind of cut your losses and you just move with it. And I think that I think was it was painful. It was very, and we also had our brewery. So we were trying to do that. And while all of this is happening, Guy calls us up and he called Christian, Antonia, Marcus and me. And he's like, whatever you do, make sure you have a camera in front of you. And at that time we are like, ah, and he's like, believe you me, I mean, if Food Network picks this up, great. And if Food Network doesn't pick it up, one day you can show your kids what you guys went through.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad that happened, because he did, like, they made this documentary. It was a 2-part documentary. The first one was called Restaurant Hustle, and it literally starts with there is a clip of me, and all of this is going on, and it was TOC, I think season 3, which I had just lost, and there was a part that Shagun, like, she was still young, and she comes running to me and she's like, "But you lost," and she's crying, and I'm like, "It's fine, we got it." And then I grabbed a bottle of, bubbles and a pillow and went to my closet and I locked it, and I cried for a good, like half an hour. And I'm like, because you worked so hard to achieve you've come from India. You've come here because you're pursuing the ultimate American dream, and you have the American dream. You have restaurant, you've got restaurants, you've got people. This is it, and it just goes flowing right, through your fingers, and you're like, and like I'm like, people say it's going to be okay, but will it ever be okay? And it was a powerful moment, and I think the one thing which Guy said, that keep on sending us things even without like editing it, or like don't go and watch what you've done. And Antonia and I recently, we were talking about it. Like there's a lot that we send, like as people today, we would never send, because I think there is a lot that you do that you don't show your vulnerability. Like there is something about humans that you're like, you've got to show that you're always strong. And the number of people who reached out and they said that just seeing you just break down was very important for us, because we felt so alone, and it was a moment that we didn't feel alone. And I think that was very powerful.
It was scary for everybody, but us, there's many families depend on us, right? And I kind of went through the same thing, and I very much relate with what you just said. Now, I'm sure you have a lot of family in India still, right?
We do have some family in India, yes.
So, do they see Food Network in India?
They do, and it was really funny. My parents, they would send me links. This was some time back. There is this channel which is called NDTV Good Times, and they would show Chopped, dubbed in Hinglish. Hinglish, I mean, is Hindi and English.
Okay.
And it was the funniest thing ever. So they would have there is Ted is talking in Hindi, or Chris is talking in Hindi, or Marcus is talking in Hindi, while I am talking in English. And that also, they had somebody do a voiceover, and I'm like, I am the only person who knows Hindi over here.
Oh my!
So it's really funny, but it's not as Food Network is not as popular in India as it is over here. So when I go to India, there are people. It is like, if you know, you know. So it's not that a lot of people know what I do, which is kind of fun.
So there's something that we do on every podcast when it's a constant, where we basically do some rapid fire questions.
Uh-oh.
You ready?
All ready. Let me take a sip of this.
Me too.
Let's go.
One ingredient you cannot live without.
Love.
Beautiful. Sweet or savory?
Sweet and savory.
I'll take it.
It needs to be balanced. In desserts, you need to put some salt. In savory, you need to just put a touch of sweetness.
Vanilla ice cream, rock salt, and olive oil. Have you ever had it?
Of course. Absolutely.
Love it.
Ultimate. Yes.
Right?
And I'll tell you what's the only thing that's going to make it better is some dark chocolate fudge with some candied pecan on top of it. And my life is ultimate. Yes.
Okay.
Done.
Guilty pleasure snack.
Guilty. This is so embarrassing. There is the instant noodles, the top ramen noodles.
Yes.
There is an Indian version of that which is called Maggi. It's called Maggi 2-minute noodles.
Okay.
And I grew up we were like, oh, this is what it is. So when I'm having a really bad day, I take a packet of that out. I hide it from the kids because it's really not that healthy. And that's what I eat.
Is it a late night type snack?
It's an anytime that I need kind of
Anytime.
snack. Yeah. I mean, I've had it for breakfast.
Dream dinner guest.
Dream dinner guest. Can it be guests? There are a lot of the obvious ones who I've always looked up to. There was somebody who asked me, and I think this is a question which changes when in life you ask
Yes.
this. There was a time that I really wanted Anthony Bourdain to be, and I think that's something that we have in common.
Yep.
But what I would really, I think my grandparents, right? I do think my grandparents, and they were always very indulgent, and they were always very supportive, and those are dinner guests that I can never actually have. So I do think that both my set of grandparents, it was really amazing. For when I graduated, both my grandmoms were there at CIA for my graduation, which was just
amazing.
so incredible. But I don't think that they ever saw my success or the progression. So I would love to cook a really good meal for the four of them.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Pasta or rice?
Rice.
Solo or team?
Team.
Beautiful. Yes. Silence or music in the kitchen?
Music in the kitchen.
Of course.
Yeah. Because
Dancing
even
Spice
when
Queen, right?
even when there is silence, there is music going on in my mind. Believe you me.
Tasting menu or a la carte?
A la carte.
Tradition or innovation?
Innovation, but to me, innovation is always steeped in tradition, because you can never. Innovation is such a crazy word, because you cannot innovate without tradition, right? Because the foundation always comes from somewhere, right? There is never a single innovative idea in this entire world which has come out of the blue. No, it has come from something that somebody has done, which is always steeped in tradition. So I think those are the two words that always go hand in hand.
Last part of the rapid fire is actually if you were to be taken to an island, you can only bring 3 ingredients, chef. What are you cooking with those 3 ingredients?
What am I cooking with those 3 ingredients? So what the 3 ingredients would be?
You
right?
tell me. What are you bringing?
Will there be will there be fire on the ingredient? I mean,
You'll make the fire with what you find on the island, so you don't need that. Yeah, don't.
Okay,
use
so so I'll take some chaat masala. Chaat masala is a blend of spices with predominantly dried mango powder, but as a flavor profile, it already has salt and it already has tartness. It already has smokiness and it already has grassiness. So to me, I think that's the ultimate spice, right? So that's the one thing which I'm going to take. I'm going to take some really good fat with me. So it's either really good olive. I think it'll have to be olive oil or ghee, one of those two, because everything else will be probably perishable, right? So that is it. And the third ingredient would probably be something which is like maybe a fresh element. So some herb or something of that sort, like maybe some mint, right? Because I think that is something. So with these 3 ingredients, and then of course I'll go foraging, and I can make a really kick-ass fish, right? Or like, I'm sure if it's on an island, there'll be coconuts. So, so yeah, I know if I have those 3 ingredients, I can make a really mean-ass meal. Yeah.
I want to be in that meal.
Absolutely. Let's find an island. That's it. Let's go.
So would you say, how did you define success back in the day, and how do you define it now? Are they the same?
Definitely not. They're not the same. I think maybe success is such it's an ever changing definition, right? I mean, I always have this conversation with Vivek that, when I was starting off, success would have been getting a job, like having a steady paycheck, right? And when that started happening, oh, I'm on TV, is that success? Oh, if I have more shows, I'll be more successful. If I have 1 restaurant, I'll be more successful. If I have 2 restaurants, I'll be more successful. I think in the end of the day, right now, success to me is that, it's going to sound so corny. Success to me is that each and every person that I meet, and if they walk away feeling happy to have met me or to have had that interaction with me, I think that's success.
I'll share this with you. So when we met in Charleston for the Food and Wine, we look at who's going to be doing events with us, right? And, who are we going to meet? So when we saw that we had you in one of the events, and we shared that with fellow chefs, every single one of them said, she's amazing.
Aww.
What you see on TV is what you get.
That's so sweet.
And she's the most positive chef and person that I've ever met. So we met with my wife, and honestly, it was exactly the way they told me it was going to be, because that's exactly what happened to me. I left with that feeling, and you can't beat that, right?
You know what? I think what is important to me is, like, all of us are going through struggles, right? Like, there are struggles, and if you dread meeting someone, it kind of changes your entire perspective of everything, right? And to me, I think I'm in the business of providing happiness through food, right? And I might not be there personally, but if that emotes through the food, or there's fun and there's levity, and I think that's it, and it's like, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. And you know what? The thing is that I'm human. I make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes, right? I overschedule. I'm trying my level best. I am flailing at times, and I think that what is important is to just have the grace, and that's it. Like, I just don't want to overthink things, and we're all here to live a beautiful life. Just live that.
The fact that you received us here in your home in beautiful Nashville,
you guys made the effort to come here. I have the easy part of this job is to having this fun conversation and drink champagne while we are at it, which, by the way, is fantastic. Thank you for getting that.
Absolutely.
And looks like we'll continue the conversation over lunch.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chef, for having us.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What did you hear out on the street? Why do you care? It's rinse and repeat. Picture can change after feeling some heat. Bubbles and edges raised up on me. Call it a day, call it a night. As long as you call me on time for what might be 86 special back up in lights. Alright.